This is Fantasy Lore, and welcome to my newest video. So, today I am going to address one of the most common questions regarding the Lord of the Rings universe. What does the One Ring actually do? So, this is a question a lot of people have, especially if you only saw the movies, since they don't really address that properly. So, let's get to it. What are the powers of the One Ring? Well, let's begin by the most commonly known, invisibility. So, if you saw the movies, you will know that if any mortal attempts to put on the ring, he will vanish. And if you remember the scene in which Frodo gets stabbed by the Witch King, it gives us the impression that Frodo is somehow partially shifted out of the physical realm, and that indeed is one of the effects of the ring, or at least it is the cause of the invisibility. So what really happens is that a mortal who wears the One Ring will get partially transported into what's called the Wraith world. I am not going to go into much detail on what the Wraith world is, but just so you can have an idea, let's look at this quote. "And here in Rivendell there still live some of his chief foes, the Elven-wise lords of the Eldar from beyond the furthest seas. They do not fear the ring raids, for those who have dwelt in the Blessed Realm live at once on both worlds, and against both the seen and the unseen they have great power." Now, this is a quote from the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's the first mention we have within the Lord of the Rings books about the existence of these worlds. Perhaps I'll make a video in which I elaborate on this subject, but what's important to know for the purpose of this video is that non-mortals, that is to say elves and wraiths and Maya, live at once on both worlds, of the seen and the unseen. So what the ring actually does is to partially pull the mortal into the unseen world, thus becoming invisible in the seen world. Now, the next power we are going to analyze is the supposed immortality. So we see this in action with Gollum and later Bilbo, and we see that their lifespans increase by the continued ownership of the ring. So, first of all, it's important to understand that this is not a unique characteristic of the One Ring. This happens with all of the great rings of power. And people usually get the impression that these rings constantly give the wearer extra life, which allows them to keep on living and living. But that's not true at all. So let's look at this quote from Gandalf. "A mortal Frodo, who keeps one of the great rings, does not die, but he does not grow or obtain more life. He merely continues until at last every minute is a weariness." So we can see that the supposed immortality given by the ring is not exactly that. The ring does not give more life. Its real power is that it can be used to decelerate decay and change both on the wearer and on the world. Now, the last and most important effect of the ring is that it grants power according to one's stature, and one of the most terrible consequences of this is that it can corrupt men with this idea of power, many times making them envision themselves wearing the ring. Well, granting power according to one's stature seems to imply that the power is a quantifiable thing, but that is not exactly the case, or at least it does not seem to be what Professor Tolkien meant. We begin to understand what he means when we get to the first example of this effect in the book. "But Smeagol returned alone, and he found that none of his family could see him when he was wearing the ring. He was very pleased with his discovery, and he concealed it, and he used it to find out secrets, and he put his knowledge to crooked and malicious uses. He became sharp-eyed and keen-eared for all that was hurtful. The ring had given him power according to his stature." So this gives us a clear idea of what the ring actually does, or what it did to Gollum. His power consisted on being sneaky and hurtful, and the ring provided him with the opportunity to expand his powers. But let's look at more examples. "The ring would give me power of command, how I would drive the hosts of Mordor and all men would flock to my banner." Boromir strode up and down, speaking ever more loudly. Almost he seemed to have forgotten Frodo, while his talk dwelt on walls and weapons, and the mustering of men. And he drew plans for great alliances, and glorious victories to be, and he cast down Mordor, and became himself a mighty king, benevolent and wise. Now this is a passage from the Fellowship of the Ring, where Boromir envisions himself wearing the ring, and we can see that this case is a bit different from Gollum's. So the power granted to him by the ring would be to enhance his already admirable abilities as a captain of his people, and envisioning himself as a mighty king of men. Now, there is one other passage I would like to go through to show you exactly how the visions and power the ring provides change according to the wearer. Wild fantasies arose in his mind, and he saw Samwise the Strong, hero of the age, striding with a flaming sword across the darkened land, and armies flocking to his call as he marched to the overthrow of Barad-dûr. And then all the clouds rolled away, and the white sun shone, and at his command the Vale of Gorgoroth became a garden of flowers and trees, and brought forth fruit. He had only to put the ring and claim it for his own, and all this could be. Now, this passage is set while Sam is alone with the ring in Mordor, and starts to feel the urge to keep the ring for himself. So in this case we see a gardener who envisions himself not only overthrowing Sauron, but creating a giant garden of his own, and this clearly shows us what the granting power according to one's stature means. Now, to end the video, I am going to show you a passage that directly succeeds this last one, only because it is worth reading. In that hour of trial, it was the love of his master that helped most to hold him firm, but also deep down in him lived still unconquered his plain hobbit sense. He knew in the core of his heart that he was not large enough to bear such a burden, even if such visions were not a mere cheat to betray him. The one small garden of a free gardener was all his need and due, not a garden sown to a realm, his own hands to use, not the hands of others to command. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. Farewell.